The Backrooms. You've been here before. Level 70. Froidetown. Survival difficulty. Class 4. Unsafe, unsecure, medium entity count. Level 70, more commonly known as Froidetown, is a snowy planetoid object that expands for roughly 49,520 square kilometers, entirely covered by a modern North American city, similar to that of Toronto or Winnipeg. Although it is known for its harsh environment, certain parts have become home for some. Image caption: the first known picture of level 70. Description: level 70 is mostly known for its temperature, which usually ranges from around negative 15 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Fahrenheit, to negative 45 degrees Celsius, negative 49 degrees Fahrenheit. However, days as warm as 2 degrees Celsius, 35.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and as cold as negative 52 degrees Celsius, negative 61.6 degrees Fahrenheit, have been documented on rare occasions. With this weather comes snow, which can often reach up to entire meters in length. Image caption: the parking lot of an office. As mentioned prior, this level is a planetoid object. Said object orbits a star referred to as Calor, which is identical to that of the front room's sun. On top of this, level 70 has a moon, referred to as Fragus, which acts almost the same as the one in the front rooms, with the only difference being its ability to change color anomalously. These are believed to be the only celestial bodies on this level. Because of Fragus, level 70 has a normal day-night cycle, though the addition of night doesn't change much. Some parts of the level have a slight increase of entities during this time. Although Froidetown is the planet's official name, this article will refer to the celestial object as a whole as 70P, which is a name given to it by those who live on this level. There are certain spots in this level referred to as habitable pockets. These aren't safe areas created by the level itself, but instead locations within the level where a sustainable population of humans and intelligent docile entities, mainly facelings and architects, note, see Entity 147, it's only a matter of time, have managed to survive. Over time, these habitable pockets have united to become their own civilization, with a unique culture and government. Despite this, habitable pockets are often far apart, and are only kept together via trade routes. Because of this, the point one enters level 70 may be a considerable distance away from any habitable pocket. Although the majority of this level consists of the buildings one would find in a city, level 70 also has a good number of suburbs sprinkled throughout. These suburbs are considered much safer than the downtown areas. However, the cold is still a prominent threat, and these areas still have a somewhat large number of entities, primarily within the houses. Thankfully, these houses are warm and contain plenty of food. It is recommended to settle within these buildings if one is not near one of the level's habitable pockets, as long as you know what you're doing. Instructions on how to settle in these buildings are provided later in this article. Igloos can also be found in the yards of the suburbs, which offer a warm, albeit risky, place to sleep. Image caption: a staircase within an apartment. A massive system of pipes that carry almond water stretches throughout this level, taking the almond water to fountains in offices and sinks in homes. What's odd about this is that all the bodies of water in this level consist of normal water. Therefore, there is no known source of almond water that the pipes could take from. This has led to the theory that these pipes connect to a deeper part of the level we cannot or have yet to access. or a different level entirely. Previous events have caused these pipes to temporarily run out of almond water if enough is taken, meaning that the almond water the pipes provide are most likely finite. Due to the threat of causing a level-wide shutdown of the pipes, it is recommended to only take almond water from taps and fountains if necessary. Another valuable and limited resource found on level 70 is food. From the houses of the aforementioned suburbs to the restaurants and stores that litter Froidetown, it first appears food in this level is infinite, with the plentiful amount of it. Although food in this level does restock itself like most levels, it takes an entire decade to do so. Because of this, it is suggested to be sparing with the amount of food you take. People living in this level have a holiday called the Gift of Food Festival to celebrate the coming of food and the start of a new decade. Cars riddle level 70's streets, though they rarely function. The odd car that does function often moves on its own and is considered sentient. However, these cars are ironically terrible at driving and tend to crash into buildings. The movement of the cars is considered too random to be an intentional attempt at killing nearby wanderers. Despite this, it is believed at least 2 people fall victim to a sentient car each day. If you spot one, it is heavily advised to immediately run into the nearest building with sturdy walls. Image caption: an igloo found in this level's suburbs provides warmth and a nice place to hide. A large river called the Burns River flows through the level, carrying Front Room's water. The river is named after the late wanderer Alexandria K. Burns, one of the first wanderers to explore this level back in 1967. Sadly, during the few times the river isn't frozen, the water is heavily contaminated and a hotspot for drowners. Instead of connecting an ocean to a lake like most rivers do, the Burns River instead connects to itself, forming a large ring around 70p with water that infinitely goes in circles. It was through the Burns River that Froidetown was discovered to be a planet. Connected to some parts of the Burns River are small patches of forest, the biggest of which being Ice Shed. These forests, although a pretty sight, have a higher population of entities than the rest of the level, and are to be avoided. Image caption: an image of downtown, taken on one of Froidetown's warmer days. Guide to settling in buildings. General info. As mentioned in the article prior, a key part of surviving this level is settling within buildings. Settlement allows you to escape the endless winter and live another day. This section of the article will serve as a how-to for those who don't know what they're doing. But before we get into the types of buildings you can settle in, we have to discuss the general rules. Rule 1. Do not settle if near a habitable pocket. Members of the habitable pockets are friendly and willing to guide you to an exit and even allow you to stay with them. It is the wiser option to approach them instead of going through the effort of settling. Image caption: a car covered in snow. Rule 2. Settle with others if possible. Settling alone not only takes up more time, but also makes things harder. It never hurts to have someone to help you if an entity is in the building you're trying to settle in, or to keep you company when settling. However, make sure the person you're settling with is someone you trust. Rule 3. Always check for entities. Due to the cold of the outside, most of the entities on this level hide within the buildings. Because of this, it is mandatory that checking for entities is the first thing you do. Doing this is simple. Make sure you and the people you settle with have weapons on you. Then search for entities and attempt to neutralize any hostile entity you can. If an entity is too powerful, or if there are too many, run and find a different building to settle in. Extra steps are provided depending on which building you settle in. These will be mentioned in their respective sections. Image caption: Ice shed after a harsh snowstorm. Rule number 4: have fun. Tell stories, play games. You've been given the opportunity to hide out with people in a warm and hopefully safe environment after being in this hellscape for God knows how long. Use it. Apartments, hotels, and offices. Being the most common types of buildings on level 70, these 3 spaces are the most settled in. In rare cases, small groups might even decide to settle permanently. Although these places aren't as convenient to settle in as the others, they do the trick. Image caption: a picture of a fancy apartment within level 70, almost resembling a hotel. Checking for entities. One of the main inconveniences one will experience is checking for entities. Given the size of these buildings, the process will be much longer, and entities tend to lurk within these larger buildings, often coming from other levels. To counter the method and danger, wanderers have created a tactic where they only search the floor they want to settle in, as well as the floor above and below it. After the search is complete, barricade all entrances to the above floors, and all but one entrance to the floors below the one you're settling in. Never settle below the 6th floor. This method is referred to as the Simpsons strategy, and, although smart, comes with a few risks. The main one is that you aren't able to check if the building you're settling in has an entrance to this level entities can come out of. Other risks are mentioned later in this section. Image caption: a picture of a hotel that leads to a restaurant. Food, if necessary. Food can be found commonly within apartments, ranging from canned meat to cake. However, as mentioned before, eating food in apartments is advised against. With hotels, a couple of restaurants, both from the front rooms or otherwise, can be found on the first floors of hotels. The quality of food depends on the type of hotel. Offices, although lacking in food compared to other buildings, have cafeterias where food can be found. All this leads to another flaw of the Simpsons strategy. The inability to check for entities leads to the inability to know if the path to a restaurant or cafeteria is safe. If you are settling in a hotel or workspace and require food, only venture out if you know how to deal with entities. Image caption: a picture of an office taken by an unknown wanderer. Sleep. For hotels and apartments, sleep is obvious. However, beds in some rooms may be damaged by entities or other people who had been in the room prior. Although this is rare, slightly more inconvenient are offices, which require sleeping bags in order to have a comfortable place to sleep. The easiness of sleep in these buildings is another big reason why they are commonly settled in. Office basements. An infamous part of level 70 among its inhabitants is the basements of office buildings. These basements are all connected and are similar to that of level 4, abandoned office, in terms of environment. The warmth and size of these basements have led to them becoming a hotspot for entities, with plenty of entities that often die out in this level, such as skin stealers, thriving here. Entrances from level 9, the suburbs, are more common here, leaving most to believe that this is where most of this section's entities come from. The lights of this section tend to go out, leading to an influx of smilers. If settling in an office, stay clear of stairways/elevators leading to basement floors. Suburban houses. Image caption: a picture of a suburban house taken by Alexandria K. Burns. Considered the most practical option for settling, suburban houses would be the most settled-in building if it weren't for the rarity of suburbs. These houses have everything needed to survive, from easy-to-check rooms to useful resources. Checking for entities. Checking for entities is considered relatively easy. Given the size of houses, it doesn't take long to perform this task, and although entities within the suburbs aren't necessarily uncommon, they aren't as bad as the other areas of level 70. However, this does not rule out the possibility of entities, most commonly hounds, residing in these houses. Always be prepared to deal with an entity. Food if necessary. Food is easily accessible in suburban houses. It can be found in almost every cupboard. The quality of the food ranges from suburb to suburb, though you can expect all to be at least edible. Sleep. Another short and obvious explanation. A comfortable place to sleep can be found within the multiple bedrooms within these houses. Although there should be enough room for everyone that is settling, sleeping bags can be found within the basements of these houses. However, a small danger does exist: the night. Although the changes from night to day is often unnoticeable in most parts of the level, suburbs far from habitable pockets tend to have an increase in entities at night. The reason is unknown, though it's speculated some form of entrance from a Class 5 level manifests itself at this time. Suburbs with this effect are referred to as Burns-type suburbs. Due to the entity increases, it is suggested to stay away from sleeping in proper bedrooms, since they often have wide windows that can expose you to entities. Instead, one should set up sleeping bags in rooms without windows. It is also suggested to barricade entrances to the house you're settling in. Image caption. A picture taken on one of the extremely rare days level 70 doesn't have any form of snow on its ground. This is an example of a room you shouldn't be sleeping in if in a Burns-type suburb. Others. Although the buildings mentioned above are the ones settled in most often, plenty of other buildings are commonly settled in. However, we are excluding these buildings from this article. The primary reason is either the buildings only have one floor and therefore is unsafe to settle in, and/or the building is so rare to find to the point where bothering to settle in them as opposed to something else is idiotic. Entities. Smilers. Smilers don't commonly appear on this level, given that most of this level is well lit. However, as previously mentioned, basements within offices have a tendency to temporarily shut down, leading to a heavy amount of smilers. Although this happening will lead to certain doom unless heavily equipped or near an exit, it is easily avoidable. Death moths. Death moths are another less than noticeable entity on this level. They wander into a building via an entrance from level 9, the suburbs, and don't have any food they need to survive, quickly dying out. However, a small population has been reported to be surviving within the office basements. Image caption. A room with a small window and curtains. Although much more practical, it is still risky to sleep in if in a Burns-type suburb. What makes death moths on the levels special is their meaning to Froidetownites. Although female death moths who wander into habitable pockets are swiftly dealt with, male death moths are not only commonly kept as pets by Froidetownites, but also a common symbol in Froidetownite culture, even being part of the flags of multiple habitable pockets. Hounds. Even though hounds don't have the best protection against the cold, the hair that covers their body is better protection than most. This leads to a somewhat stable population within this level's outside, which often preys on this level's unique faceling variant. Despite this, most hounds usually end up seeking shelter within a building, roughly every couple of days, making them a threat within the first floor of most buildings one would settle in. A much higher and more threatening population exists within the level's office basements, though not much is known about them. Image caption. A windowless basement, perfect to sleep in a Burns-type suburb. Facelings. Although communities of normal facelings from elsewhere exist both within and outside habitable pockets, this level is infamous for the unique variant of facelings referred to as Freudlings that appear on this level. Freudlings are much lankier than the average faceling and are often unable to walk steadily. Although most Freudlings are docile, some will attack if aggravated. The problem with this is most Freudlings who fall under this category are incredibly easy to aggravate, sometimes taking as much as you being near them a threat. Although it's not uncommon for Freudlings to warn you not to approach them via gestures that poorly attempt to communicate yelling, most will try to attack you first thing. Freudlings will usually attack you with their fists, small objects, or knives. However, Freudlings with small firearms have been reported, though these reports haven't been confirmed. Thankfully, Freudlings are easily outran due to their inability to walk without stumbling. Despite this, it is heavily advised to avoid all Freudlings. Skin Stealers. Skin Stealers are another entity that's oftentimes only a threat within buildings and office basements. However, there is an exception. Whenever Skin Stealers are in a skin suit, they are more comfortable with exiting and traveling between buildings, making them a tiny bit more of a threat. Despite this, they usually fall victim to hounds, Freudlings, and death rats. Dunks. Although practically non-existent within most of the level, snow dunks are a common occurrence within habitable pockets due to being a common pet throughout the Backrooms. Most habitable pockets have transformed a couple of their buildings into man-made ice lakes in order to give the snow dunks the ice lakes they need that the level lacks. Image caption. A gas station falling under the beneficial and common but high threat of entities category. Though nothing compared to the number of flags death moths are on, the habitable pockets of Claggington and Noahtown have snow dunks on their flag. Both of these pockets, as well as New Lviv, have statues of snow dunks. Ungawayather Zers. Despite the fact that most entities who stay in the buildings die in them, smaller instances of Ungawayather Zers learned to thrive in them. Ungawayather Zers will often hide within cupboards and between small objects, allowing the process of waiting for prey to be much easier. Because of this, Ungawayather Zers are considered one of the biggest threats to look out for when settling. Always be prepared for an Ungawayather Zer attack. Crawlers. The crawler fungus and humans and entities affected by it can be commonly found in certain desolate parts of level 70, although they don't often leave said parts. They are believed to have been carried here by infected entities entering here from level 3, electrical station, only for it to spread throughout the area they entered from. The infected are usually good at staying hidden, meaning you never know if you've recently stepped into one of these infected areas. If you feel anything that so much as resembles stage 1 of crawler infection, get to the nearest habitable pocket or exit to a safe level as fast as possible. Image caption. A mall falling under the beneficial but high threat of entities and rare category. Death rats. To survive the harsher climate of level 70, death rats have developed white fur and a thick layer of blubber. On top of this, they have also grown roughly the size of a meter. All these changes have led to death rats taking up the role of predator within the small ecosystem this level has, preying on whatever dare venture beyond the buildings. This has led to them becoming one of the biggest threats on this level, other than the cold itself. However, there is a way to defeat them. Due to all adaptations being made to counter the cold specifically, the death rats of this level have trouble within the warmth of the buildings. If one were to lure a death rat into a building and then quickly find a good hiding spot, it is likely to leave or die of heat stroke within the hour. It is recommended you use a building with multiple floors for this. If you are not in the proximity of any building with multiple floors, the safest option is to fight. The most effective weapon to use against them is any form of sharp object. If one does not have any weapon on them whatsoever, it's already too late. Image caption. An indoor play place, falling under the rare and useless category. Scramblies. Though as mysterious on this level as any, scramblies are incredibly common within apartments and offices. Other than that, not much is notable about the scramblies themselves. What is notable, however, is their relations with the habitable pockets. Its citizens have learned how to turn scrambly tiers into explosives and other such weapons. It is unknown how, and they refuse to give up such information. Because of this, scramblies are considered symbols of war within the culture of habitable pockets, and depictions of them are often put on various weapons. Architects. Note, see Entity 147. It's only a matter of time. Architects are a common sight within this level's habitable pockets, being one of the first large groups, consisting of a majority of humans, that a large amount of architects joined. Because of this, level 70 is more influential to the culture of architects outside of level 121, the Fading Islands, than most would think. One of the biggest examples of this is a large amount of architects' surnames that originated from this level. Some of the most prominent include Aqua, Gardnerson, Marinerson, O'Gardner, O'Mariner, Plantison, and Von Terra. Drowners. As mentioned previously, drowners only appear on this level by emerging out of the Burns River, which is often frozen. Therefore, drowners on this level are extremely rare. However, when the river does melt, drowners will infest the river and all the land near it. During a drowner infestation, the average citizen of a habitable pocket that has the Burns River flowing through it will undergo a procedure to barricade the building they live in and hide within a basement if possible. While this happens, a group of people armed with various ranged weapons, referred to as river guards, will be sent out to fend off the sudden infestation. Although there has never been an instance of river guards failing to fend off the infestations, often they face heavy casualties. Bases, outposts, and communities. Image caption. Kelpie Street, New Lviv. Froidetownites. Froidetownites are what the people living in Froidetown's habitable pockets refer to themselves as. It is important to note people living in level 70 outside of the habitable pockets are simply from Froidetown. It is a common myth that most Froidetownites are Canadian or people born in the backrooms of Canadian descent. Although the majority of people in habitable pockets fit this description, a mere 41% of the people born in Froidetown are of Canadian descent. The habitable pockets often have a large majority of people with British, French, Belgian, Slavic, Scandinavian, Japanese, Indian, and Australian descent. Froidetownite culture varies from pocket to pocket, though they are all very similar. If one were to sum up Froidetownite culture as a whole, it would be a mix of the culture of the peoples mentioned above, with extra emphasis and unique traditions being put on this level's everlasting winter. The views on the cold itself also vary depending on which pocket you're in. Some view it as a grand challenge to overcome. Others view it as something to embrace. This view interestingly affects what Froidetownites consume. The former will often eat foods, such as soup, and drink drinks such as hot chocolate and coffee, whereas the latter will often consume slushies during level 70's coldest points. Image caption. A picture of the hotel being used as a parliament building. These habitable pockets all form together into one parliamentary democracy, with each pocket often being divided into 2 to 6 electoral districts. However, they do not have a proper parliament building. instead using a hotel in the habitable pocket of Noah Town. So far, the Froidetownites have only had 3 prime ministers, those being Menzite Nakamura, Jean Adamski, and the current prime minister, Arthur Larsion. One of the biggest difficulties about Froidetownite Parliament was the language barrier. Although the majority of Froidetownites could speak English, most of them didn't want it to become the language of politics. As a result, Froidetownites decided to create a unique language. This language, called Freudish, is a mix of English, French, Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, Croatian, German, Swedish, Japanese, and Hindi, with a tiny bit of words from the languages of indigenous groups of North America and Australia thrown in. The majority of Froidetownites are fluent in this language, and Freudish has spread to some of the people in level 70 outside of the habitable pockets. Surprisingly, the Union is the successor of a smaller union between 4 habitable pockets mere kilometers away from each other, these 4 being Noah Town, New Lviv, Banerjee, and New Bonavista. These pockets were brought together by Elizabeth F. Cook under the condition a 5th habitable pocket would be constructed nearby and become the capital, making trade between them easier. Unfortunately, Cook died shortly after the creation of this habitable pocket, which was quickly named Cooktown after her. A man named Joseph T. Chips took over as leader of the Union. After a series of scandals revolving around Chips, the Union fell. A mere 6 months after the collapse of the Union, Menzies Nakamura created a new union between Noah Town, New Lviv, and Cooktown, quickly allowing more and more habitable pockets to join until it encompassed every habitable pocket. Quote, "Years ago, the genius of Brian James Raynaud claimed that permanent settlement on this level could be possible if a large group of people came together to rid a portion of Froidetown of its hostile entities. A year later, the genius of Xavier Johnston Potter got a brave group of people behind him to make this dream come true, forming Noah Town, the first habitable pocket. Today, we all stand together as one perfect union. It was great during its conception, and it will be great 1,000 years from now." End quote. Menzies Nakamura. BNTG Resource Extraction Camp, Froston. Abandoned. Froston was a camp set up by the BNTG within a suburb to contract the, at the time, thought endless supply of almond water. After only a few days of being there, the pipes of the entire level temporarily ran out. This greatly angered the Froidetownites, who demanded the BNTG leave. The BNTG refused, which led to the then Prime Minister, Jean Adamski, threatening an attack if they continued to stay. After the threat, the BNTG decided to leave. Today, the camp remains abandoned, and the BNTG have better relations with Froidetownites, the two often trading. Carnifices of Galoo. The Carnifices of Galoo, or just Carnifices for short, are a group of unknown size that reside within the Ice Shed Woods. The group is known for wearing all-black winter clothing, complete with ski masks. This group is incredibly hostile and to be avoided. Although Carnifices rarely leave Ice Shed, they have launched multiple attacks on the habitable pockets, the most notable ones being the attack on Noah Town on 23/11/2017, and the attack on Peabody Town on 15/2/2020. Due to the constant threat of attacks, the habitable pockets have declared war on the Carnifices, and commonly send search teams through Ice Shed through the nearby habitable pocket of Fouarville, though these search teams often find little success in their mission. The Carnifices aren't believed to be any more than a revolutionary group. However, certain signs have pointed to them being some form of cult. Reports of carnifices referring to themselves as the righteous executioners of the snow god have surfaced among those who explore Ice Shed. More research on this group is underway. Entrances and exits. Finding a white door in Level 2 Abandoned Utility Halls, Level 3 Electrical Station, Level 31 Roller Rink, Level 208 Rooftop Run, Level 729 Mondays, and rarely Level 9 the Suburbs, with the number 70 engraved on it, will take you to a building within Level 70. Sometimes, these doors can be found engraved within the trees of Level 39, Enchanted Forest, and Level 234, Detention Dimension. Touching paintings depicting a snowy landscape in odd places within Level 43, Waterworld, Level 852, Retail Therapy, or Level 979, Oaks Inn, will teleport you here. No clipping through the walls of the server rooms in Level 120, Broken Servos, will bring you here. 70p may sometimes appear in the skies of Level 149, the Coconut Isles, and Level 170, Concrete Boxes, as some form of moon. Looking at it for a random period of time will teleport you to this level. Exits. All entrances to this level serve as exits. This is the most common way of exiting this level. Some doors within buildings have a chance of leading to Level 0, Tutorial Level, Level 13, the Infinite Apartments, Level 37, Sublimity, Level 120, Broken Servos, or Level 427, the Wood Rooms. Extremely rare rooms can be found within offices, where the floor will be made of grass. Sleeping in these rooms will cause you to wake up in Level 369, Comely. Finding an employee-only door in the office basements will lead you to Level 410.1, a perfectly abnormal basement. No clipping into trees will take you to the woodland exhibit of Level 540, Really Wild Complex. Metal doors can sometimes lead you to Level 571, Scribe's Trauma. Doors to restaurants can rarely lead to Level 859, Palm Hounds, though these only work if that level is in its winter season.